Good day, everyone. This is our report about the community language learning method. So, what is community language learning method? Community language learning is based on an approach modeled on counseling techniques that alleviate anxiety, threat, and the personal and language problems a person encounters in the learning of foreign languages. That's why using CLL method or community language learning method, persons involved in her, which is the students or teachers, are free to speak. So this is also considered as counseling learning. So in here, we are using counseling learning model of education where learners in a classroom considered as a group rather than a class because again, they are free to speak. The key idea of community language learning method is that the students determine what is to be learned. So, the teacher is a facilitator and provides support. In the basic form of community language learning method, a maximum of 12 students sit in a circle. There is a small portable tape recorder inside the circle. The teacher, who is termed the knower, stands outside the circle. When a student has decided they want to say something in the foreign language, they call the knower or the teacher over and whisper what they want to say something in their native language. Then, the teacher offers the equivalent utterance in English or the target language. The student attempts to repeat the utterance with encouragement from the knower or the teacher, with the risk of the group eavesdropping. Another student then repeat the process until there is a kind of dialogue recorded. The knower or the teacher replay the recording and transcribe it on the board. This is followed by analysis and questions from students. The community language learning method was originally developed by Charles Corral. Aside from that, the community language learning method also includes things that members should interact in an interpersonal relationship. That it's like they are very close to one another, that they can freely express what they know and how they feel with one another. Because again, in here we are using counseling learning, where they are free to speak and at the same time, one must speak with the other members of the group. Students and teachers work together to facilitate learning by valuing each other, lowering the defense that prevent interpersonal interaction, meaning to say, members of the group or as the class, we have to remove the hindrances or the barriers when it comes to interpersonal interaction, especially regarding communicating with one another. And then, we have in here reducing anxiety, in a sense that one of the goals of CLL, or community language learning, is to lessen the negative experiences when it comes to the usage of language and the development of language on an individual. And if a certain individual is experiencing a lot of barriers in his or her communication or the usage of language, then he or she can join CLL class to reduce anxiety. And of course, constituting a supportive community that one will feel that there will be support in his or her development of language skills.
Now let's proceed to teachers' roles and learner roles in the community language learning method. We will have the first the teacher roles. First is teacher's role as that of a true counselor. We know that when it comes to counseling, it means the counselor must solve a particular problem being experienced by individual. In this particular case, a teacher must also be a problem solver in a sense that those barriers of communication, those hindrances that a certain individual is experiencing when it comes to language learning are to be accommodated also by the teacher. Second, they are not perceived as a threat. We have to remember that in a community language learner, there must be environment which is very friendly to those individuals who are included on the group because they will be having a hard time experiencing themselves if a certain individual is a trait to them. That's why the environment must be friendly. Third one, they don't respond boundaries and units. Just like what I have said a while ago, the community language learning class or the community language learning class, it must be a free when it comes to our experiences. We can speak to the different persons involved in this group. There must be a boundary at all. 4. They concentrate on the learner's needs because the CLL or the community language learning is developed for counseling regarding the problems that a certain individual is experiencing in the language learning, then those needs are to be accommodated by the person involved when the CLL. For instances, if a certain individual is experiencing a problem on how to use the verbal communication skills, then those needs of the particular learners must be accommodated by the persons around them. Let's move on to the learner roles. First, learning is not viewed as individual accomplishment, but as something that is achieved collaboratively. Next is learners become members of community. And then, learn influence counseling from a teacher and classmate. And lastly, learners will listen carefully to the knower or the teacher. Let's proceed to the stages and community language learning method. First, first we have the bird stage. It is the feeling of security and belonging are being established because here we are dealing with a group of students. Then the bird stage states that a certain individual will also have the ways on how to solve his or her problem in language learning if they feel that they are secured. The second one is the self stage. As the learner's ability to improve and starts to get an idea of language works to achieve a measure of independence from the person around them, although they seek help from the knowers or the teacher. So in here, in the second stage, a student or individual is still establishing the idea on how to use the language. We have a separate existence. For this stage, learners can speak independently, but of course, trying to separate, but still there are things that they need to accomplish. So still there is a process of separation that for can be independently with help of other persons. Then we have adolescent stage. The learners are independent where they are secure of gaps in their knowledge and feel secure enough to take criticism. And of course, being connected by the persons around them because they are not fit totally independent when it comes to the usage of the language. That's why they will still receive different connections on how to use a language. And then the last stage in CLL is the independence. This is the full or complete independence from the knower or the teacher, that the child becomes an adult and becomes the knower or the teacher, that the students can also be a teacher. In here, the student is now an individual who can use the language well. He or she can also teach other by using the language that he or she has learned.